Hello, welcome to the PC Perspective Podcast. This is being recorded on October 30, 2024. It's episode 797. I'm Sebastian Peak.
I'm Jeremy Hellstrom.
I'm Josh Walrath.
I'm Brett Van Sprinberg.
And I'm Kent Burgess.
At least one of us is in the holiday spirit.
I always go blood red for the Halloween show.
Yeah.
And episode 666, you did it for that.
It's true, I did. Yeah.
That was the Doom
try and throw
episode.
a little bit of holiday cheer into the appropriate moments.
Oh, look at that. With a touch of a
thank you,
button, Kent is now red.
Nice, Kent.
Although, compared to the very vibrant red of his microphone cable, I'd say
it doesn't work very well.
Mm-hmm. I don't
Red
know if
is
you've
tough.
noticed this evening, but I'm using my red microphone. I don't know if you know.
Oh, you dusted that
Is
thing
that
off.
what that is?
Wow, I haven't
Yeah,
seen that in
I did.
a week.
Yes, it's been so long.
It's been days and days.
It has. It has. So it's served me well, actually. I'm going to keep going with it.
Mm-hmm. You can support PC Perspective by going to patreon.com/PCPer. That's PCPER. And support this. I mean, who is podcasting about computer hardware and software and industry trends on a Wednesday night at 10 p.m. Eastern? Every week.
Not very
nobody
many
else.
people.
No.
Just us,
Probably some.
baby.
I think two
Okay,
major
there's a handful.
ones do it on Wednesdays. One's Hot Hardware, and then there's us. Oddly enough, two of the last, primarily review-oriented.
Hardware. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Dying breed.
We should devolve to dumb stunts at some point, though. I think that's
Absolutely,
probably where we need to
yes.
My floor is actually on slab, so I can, in theory, put a hot tub in here and podcast from there.
Hey, you should.
go. Okay.
And you can support PC Perspective. You can be recognized like these people that Brett will now read, so I don't have to do a graphic here.
Right, that would be Fraud Fishy Hates Everything. I kind of like that name. Fraud Fishy Hates Everything. And Chasp Zero, although he's kind of like done this whole Chasp O thing. So I'm just going to go with Chasp O. And I think I like this name as well. Gregabyte. I like these three guys.
Do you think Gregabyte is a Gigabyte fan?
Maybe.
Maybe Gregabyte's like, no,
I
ASRock
think maybe.
for life. He's got ASRock tattooed
He's
on his arm.
He's got a tattoo.
Yeah.
ROG.
Zeus.
He's been
ROG
gigabit.
on his chest.
Never.
So thanks to those folks for being long-term sponsors. You too could eventually be a long-term sponsor. So that day for you could start today.
Mm-hmm. We're like artists. This is a form of art. It's like performance art, sort of.
It is.
It's improv. We are an improv
Oh.
troupe. I don't know if you're aware of
is.
this or not, viewer. We don't actually do full dress rehearsals for this show. This isn't SNL. This is not tightly scripted. We come up with it over the course of like a week of sleepless nights and writing all the material. No, we just wing it. We have some show notes, but most of this is just improvised. And this level of chemistry that we have, that we've brought to you, it's organic. You can't fake this. It's been years and years of us struggling to get along, struggling
Honed.
to
Finally honed.
put up with one another and not talk over each other.
Carry it around in my
Yeah,
front pocket, my back
Oh,
pocket.
Before proceeding into the news, let's check in with Josh Walrath in Laramie, Wyoming. Human interest segment. Josh, tell us what you had for lunch today.
I had a burger.
Was it human?
Thank you. No, anyway, it's the Hatch Green Chili Burger from Born on the Barn. Usually it comes with one patty, but I wanted two, so I got two. It comes with the aforementioned Hatch Green chilies. The burgers are actually, when they're cooked, they are sautéed with mustard. And then you've got a pepper jack cheese that goes along in there. And it's a fairly simple burger, but it sure is tasty. And the fries were a little overdone. They were kind of more crunchy from, you can't see it much just because of the angle. They gave me a big box, and then they wrapped the burger into a foil thing. So I had to take the burger out of the foil, out of the box. And this is what you see. So it wasn't terribly messy, even though it kind of looks that way. It was nicely compacted. It was still a fluffy bun and extremely tasty. So I had a very nice lunch in terms of gastronomical sensations. Otherwise, it was a day to forget. Thank you.
Let's move to the PC Perspective News Desk and our top story tonight. Breaking news. Quarterly results.
Breaking.
Well, it kind of breaking. Breaking-ish news from AMD. They've reported their quarterly financials. Josh, please talk at great length about this.
Okay. AMD made some money. People are happy. Shareholders not so happy because their share price went down 10% just today. Thank you.
Should have done more AI.
Thank you. Thank you. And thank you. No, I mean,
now for the rest of the story.
yes. This was AMD's largest quarter ever. Q3 2024, $6.8 billion. Their gross margin's sitting at 50%, which is up 3% year on year, and I believe 1% quarter to quarter. Last quarter, they made $5.835 billion, which, if you can do math, that's about just slightly less than $1 billion in revenue. So it's a pretty significant uptick. But why are their share prices go down? Because, they made a net of $771 million, which is a significant increase over last year, which was almost 300 million, and last quarter was only 265 million. So they've seen some significant improvements in the bottom line. Higher margins, more revenue, more net income. But how does this all break down? Well, they have now essentially become a data center company. 3.5 billion of their revenue was that. That's 122% year over year. That's selling a lot more EPYC processors. It's selling a lot more Instinct stuff. They took, I believe, they're expecting this year to sell about $4.5 billion worth of Instinct processors, and they raised that up to around $5 billion. So they're selling stuff. However, if we kind of look at some of the math, that means that AMD now has around 5 to 6% of the market share of this particular AI function, and NVIDIA has the rest. Gaudi is still trying to find its stride. I mean, they're selling them. They've got a pretty decent software stack for Gaudi. AMD has improved their ROCm software stack pretty dramatically so that it is a good alternative to CUDA and that stuff. But they're still only, they're essentially selling every one of these parts that they produce. And as you know, it's a large series of dies, not a series of tubes, but a series of dies on top of an interposer. And they're selling them, I think, around 12,000 a piece, but that's still less than what NVIDIA is selling their top of the line products. Their client segment was up to 1.9 billion. This includes a lot of the Zen 5 Ryzen processors. It lagged a little bit from last quarter, where they were not selling as many AM5 based products, and we were just starting to see Zen 5 hit the market. But this quarter, things have improved dramatically. Now, whether it is a shortage of other AM5 parts, namely like the 7800X3D, which has been rare as hen's teeth, and people have been buying the 9000 series. It's a refresh, and we've had the new 870 boards, even though those would be extremely late in the quarter that they're reporting. But it's still a solid increase in just their client segment. Gaming went down to 462 million. That's down 69%. Not so nice. And 29% sequentially. And that is really a semi-custom issue. I'm not sure, but I believe the client segment also includes the Radeon products, while gaming is a lot of the probably handhelds maybe, and of course, consoles. Embedded segment is before AMD took over Z-Links, they were about north of 1 billion a quarter in revenue, and since AMD took them over, they've gone down quite a bit, but they're starting to improve and dig out of there. So that's 927 million by itself. So it's less than 1 billion, but they're moving up because it was pretty weak there for a while. But it's it's moving. So AI of course is everything they're talking about. The Epic 9000 series are out, and those are apparently outstanding products. Instinct MI325X accelerators are going to be launched here shortly. The 300 series is current, and of course they're selling like hotcakes, as many as they can produce. So mobile, solid. Networking, the Pensado group is putting out some interesting products that they're just ramping up, and now that kind of the industry is saying, you know what, we want high-speed Ethernet connections in between these, massive compute clusters. They're nicely placed where they can actually sell a lot of products. If they perform as they should, they have the software stack to, do a lot of interesting things. And again, AI PCs, the AI Pro 300 series mobile processors are coming out. The Pro, of course, are, more enterprise aimed. They will be available for longer than other ones. And, it's just, they've got some serious mobile parts coming out. And as soon as Microsoft decides to start supporting the AI NPUs in Windows 11, then
They can't right now, as we've talked about their whole exclusivity thing with Qualcomm and the Copilot Plus AI PCs. So hopefully that ends soon. By the way, can we go back just a moment to that gaming segment, which apparently does include Radeon as well as Radeon Pro?
Oh, okay. Well, I apologize.
Down.
Yeah, a lot of that is going to be consoles. Radeon has been selling okay, not great, but okay. And the 7800 XT has been one of the best selling cards. But when that's like your only really good selling card, your market share does not increase dramatically. So the 7000 series has been a significant upgrade from the 6000 series. And AMD has certainly been improving the software and drivers dramatically over the past couple of years, where NVIDIA no longer has the gold standard. They're very equal in my experience. Of course, there are horror stories from all sides of software issues, but that's kind of par for the course. But you can't complain about what AMD is offering for free and at a lower price for performance.
Continuing with the financial segment, which I know all of our podcast listeners just can't get enough of. But this is interesting. Not that the last story wasn't interesting. Supermicro Computer, the firm auditing their books, has resigned.
Threw their hands up in disgrace and left.
Yeah, Ernst & Young resigned as auditor.
Ernst & Young is a rather large and significant accounting/auditing firm.
Mm-hmm.
So the company,
when they say nope and walk out, it's bad.
They are protecting their reputation.
Yeah.
Supermicro, in late August, they delayed the filing of their annual report, citing a need to assess, quote, its internal controls over financial reporting, end quote. And there was something about accounting manipulation.
That's a nice way to say fraud, right?
Yeah. The accounting firm released a statement that said, quote, we are resigning due to information that has recently come to our attention, which has led us to no longer be able to rely on management's and the audit committee's representations, and to be unwilling to be associated with the financial statements, prepared by management, end quote. So in other words,
That's a firm vote
cooking,
of no,
they're cooking the books. And
no,
the auditor,
no confidence.
The auditor said, I can't support this. And they resigned. And Supermicro shares have gone down 30% in the last several hours.
Oh, can we trust that number, though? Are they fadging that,
What's the
too?
30% number?
Yeah.
It's still not
when
down where
AI
it was
really-
before they started cashing in on AI, which is probably what Josh was going to say.
Which is, yeah.
Yeah, the AI boom, Supermicro was, on the
76 mil or
coattails of
something?
NVIDIA. They were one of the partners that brought a lot of stuff to market, and their share price, kind of rocketed over the past year. So click on the 1 year button.
Okay.
Let's take a look.
I mean, today alone,
And-
they're down 32.68%. Let's look at the
Yeah,
1 year
but-
mark.
Oh, so you see how much it jumped
March of
went
this year.
real high.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It went from, let's see, January 2, 28.55. By March 13, it was at 118.81.
Yeah.
And then today it's just fallen off a cliff. It went from 49.12 at the start to 33.07. And we're not done yet. I mean, who knows what's going to happen?
It's
But
gonna
if you
keep
sell
going down.
now, you'd still make more money. You'd make money compared to if you bought it at the beginning of the
Yeah,
year.
compared to the beginning of the year, you're still making money. That's exciting.
They were always, a low share thing for
Yeah.
ages, even though, they had a solid business. But yeah, AMD took a blow today, 10% down.
Yeah.
But
That's a buying
they've
You can do
kind
like
of been
6
trending.
months.
Feels like a buying opportunity.
Yeah.
It might, yeah.
All right. Getting
One
back.
thing I did want to say before we go, and something that I forgot to mention, the AMD, their January is going to be slam packed with products, not just for enterprise, but they're very proud of their entire stack on the desktop side, which of course, like Ryan Shrout said earlier on Twitter today, but I thought that the desktop was dead. No, it's never been dead, and it hasn't been dead for the past 10 years that everybody has been talking about it being dead. But they have a solid brand of CPUs, a new motherboard section, and new GPUs. They have, basically said that they will have the new 8000 series come CES, and they will announce them around that time. And, we go on about, what they're wanting to do and the X3D stuff, the brand new X3D stuff that's coming up that we'll talk about a little bit later. But yeah, they have a full stack, something that looks pretty healthy and exciting and new. Come aboard. We're expecting you. The Love Boat.
It's shiny and new.
Getting on the topic of hardware, Z890 motherboards. You can't run a Core Ultra processor without a Z890 motherboard on desktop. That's just the way it is. But there's a bit of a problem. The motherboards are having some instability issues. Now, granted, this is with 24H2, everyone's favorite flavor of Windows 11 that maybe never should have been. It's problem after problem with this. But one would think that there would have been some internal testing.
I believe you can make that statement about Windows 11 in general.
Okay.
It never should have been, but go on.
Well, it had, logically, if they were going to keep making Windows, and as long as there's no problem with the number 11, so they'd have to skip it like they did with 9. Because remember, there's something about 9
And
where
death.
you can't do it.
Wasn't Windows 10 the last one they were going to make? I'm trying to remember.
Well, right, because it was
That
Windows
was-
as a service.
Oh, that's
But then,
right. Yeah.
If you're running 24H2, you have to disable the iGPU with the Core Ultra. There's something about instability with the XE graphics. Anyway, one would think that Intel would have at least the resources to make sure that the latest build of Windows worked with the new platform that they just...
No motherboards.
Yeah, it just feels like this is yet another installment in the continuing saga of unfinished platforms on desktop. We get the platform, and then eventually we get AGESA microcode updates on AMD side. And lately, we've been getting more and more microcode updates on Intel side. It's fixed now. No, now it's fixed. This is the permanent fix. Oh, here's the revised permanent fix.
Now.
I did a video last week on Intel firmware, and the latest BIOS for that board, which I ran for the video, is already obsolete, and it's been taken down, and there's another release from Asus for that same board. I went from BIOS 1666 to now it's 1820 in a matter of days. So this stuff is happening really fast. There are major firmware releases on both sides this month. So if you're running a platform like I have a X870E board behind me with a 9700K for some benchmarking. Anyway, there's new firmware all the time with these things, and it does affect performance and stability.
So how did you slot that 9700K into an X870E
I don't know. Am I saying K?
No, I wasn't going to go back. I wasn't going to go back and actually push on that one.
The 9700X. I don't know what I'm talking about. The thing that came in this box, whatever this is.
That was not me making fun of Sebastian. That was me making fun of the gaming or the naming conventions that are happening in the industry.
Intel had a 9700K. AMD has a 9700X. Intel has a Z890. AMD has an X870. The numbers they're so close. And then AMD also likes to have graphics cards that have the same numbers as their processors.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of 24H2, because we just can't talk about it enough, feel free to skip this part. Wondering why you can't see Windows 11 24H2? Here's a handy incompatibility list via Jeremy Hellstrom, sourced from Bleeping Computer.
Yes. Everything from special wallpapers that you've bought an app for to customize them, to fingerprint sensors, to Microsoft is very upset that you might have a poor experience with a wallpaper because it's going to crash the wallpaper, not Windows. So they're just blocking Windows Update so your wallpaper can continue to be that nice shade of peach that you really, truly, deeply love. The Windows Hello fingerprint sensor, and even versions of easy anti-cheat software, which, you're going to need to play a lot of the online games. If you got an older version, sorry, you are not even going to see 24H2 on your upgrade list. And you've only got less than 364 days to upgrade because Windows 10 hits end of life just under a year. So, not that you can get this update because, well, I'm sorry, you like to use anti-cheat software, and that's just not acceptable. A couple of Asus mobile devices, straight out no. The Voicemeter app, which comes from the Windows Store, is preventing Windows from updating. Yeah, there's a long list of just ridiculousness that they should have figured out.
I see integrated camera is on the list.
Yes.
Sam browser.
Aren't there some laptops with integrated cameras out there on the market? I'm not sure.
think there's a handful. Yeah,
okay.
There's a handful.
And of course, it's like the built-in camera app in Windows Hello facial recognition that Microsoft obviously has no control over how they work, that are preventing Microsoft from pushing the update.
I think Microsoft might need some more staff. They might need to get some more people in there kind of testing.
I mean, the fingerprint
every
sensor
Windows
is another
user.
one. Jeez.
Smart Sound.
Intel Smart Sound.
So this is not so bad if you're, oh no, I don't have the Windows 24H2 upgrade on my list. I'll just ignore it for now and do it. If you happen to be, okay, I need a fresh install of Windows, and you download the latest Windows installer from Microsoft, you're going to get 24H2, and it may well be incompatible with your system, which is going to lead to a bad time. So it's sort of worth looking at that and being aware if you're planning on reimaging your machine anytime soon and you haven't seen 24H2 in your upgrade list.
Yeah, we've got a Samsung Galaxy Book 360 that we had just gotten a few months ago on sale. And I've been very nervous about seeing 24H2, and I've been very happy not to have seen it yet. But seeing some of the features of that laptop on that list makes me understand why we've not seen it yet.
Hey, It sounds like you have just the right mix of hardware to possibly avoid it for a while.
Yeah.
This doesn't seem to me like a list of problems. It's just a helpful guide to ensure that you're not inflicted with 24H2. But if you're trying to do a clean install, the problem is you go to Microsoft's,
media creation tool
or directly download an ISO. It's all 24H2 now. Yeah. Running and updating Windows 11 without a wire. This is from Ars Technica. Yes, it is still possible to do it offline.
Hell, even easy.
And that way, the recall feature, though present and active by default, will not actually be sending any telemetry outside of your PC. As far as I know, unless they can do it through your, wall power
after the fact.
Somehow. Yeah, they'll have this huge file that just gets all uploaded at once.
You
go online.
Yeah.
But this is also part of the series on, I hate to say it, but Windows 10, October 14th, 2025. A couple of posts that I did about this and the fact that, 24H2 has made life interesting over the last couple of weeks. This is just about, hey, if you've got a machine that's Windows 10 and it doesn't want you to go to Windows 11, it's actually pretty easy to do as long as your machine has some form of TPM. Even if it doesn't have TPM, you can still do it really, really easily. There's even guides on if you want to upgrade without losing any data versus a completely and totally fresh start. So once you do it, especially when you've got absolutely no TPM or secure boot going, you can install it, essentially just tricking and installing it like it's your server, but it still installs whatever version you're licensed for. Yeah, thanks, Microsoft, for Windows licensing. A couple of the feature updates will not show up. Again, hey, oh no, I can't get 24H2. So you will have to go and manually grab those, but other than that, you're going to get normal security updates. So you can run a Windows 11 that's, with the proper hardware, essentially bulletproof about getting 24H2 and still be compatible when getting security updates for at least a little bit longer.
From Tech Power Up, there's a report that came out yesterday. Delidded Ryzen 7 9800X3D PIC confirms 3D V-cache die moved below the CCD.
Why would they do such a thing?
Major thermal implications here. Doesn't
major.
Except there's nothing about that photo that shows the delidded CPU that identifies it as a 9800X3D.
What's your point?
Anyway.
That I can't trust this report.
The point is that it's really an unverified report. That's obviously an older 7800X3D or the one in the middle being held, but the one that's delidded there's no way to know what CPU that is.
I see. Oh, the source for this is WCCF Tech. So where are they getting these pictures from?
Now
wait, go scroll back up, because that picture seems different than that one. I guess it.
One of these things is not like the other.
Right-hand side of the CCD.
I'm not saying that they haven't moved the 3D V-cache underneath, because that's been a rumor for a bit about the 9000 X3D processors. But yeah, this story, there's no actual proof in this story. It's just more speculation and leaks.
Sounds like it's time for you to shuck some more silicon.
What we do know is the people who have actually taken a look at like a 9700 CCD and have, scraped off the top and done some really good photography on it. They have changed around how they interface with the V-cache, the 3D V-cache. But nothing in those pictures tells us whether that V-cache is going to be on the top or the bottom. All we know is that AMD has done something significantly different from past generations, and supposedly it's a significant improvement in overall performance. Again, I haven't been briefed on any of this. This is speculation based on stuff that we can consider trustworthy. It would make sense with some of the leaks that, hey, this chip is boosting up to 5.4 gigahertz with an X3D and performing really well across a wide variety of applications. You'd think that they may have changed some of the thermals around, but again, we're just not sure.
Exactly.
I mean, silicon is itself. It's a semiconductor. It acts as both a conductor and an insulator. And with heat, it does kind of act more like an insulator with stuff like this. And so that's why the X3Ds have always been lower boost clocks, because it just can't get rid of that built up quick heat as quickly as other ones that are attached directly to an IHD.
I think there's going to be overclocking options in some of the new X3D chips, I believe. That's what I've read.
Which would also suggest that they have changed the order of the 3D.
Or fix the ability to get rid of the heat.
But how else would you do that other than, not putting them on top?
There are more than one way.
They've reimagined it. They have reimagined it is what they've done.
They took Walt Disney's head out of the freezer, thawed it, got him to reimagine everything.
The gaming legend continues. AMD introduces next generation AMD Ryzen 7 9800X3D processor. This is from AMD's press release from this morning at 9 a.m. And we had speculated about this on the podcast, but it is official. AMD has moved that 3D V cache, the extra 64 megabytes of cache, below the CCD. Quoting AMD, with the AMD Ryzen 7 9800X3D processor, AMD has re-engineered its cutting-edge on-chip memory solution with second-gen AMD 3D V-Cache technology. The 64 megabyte cache memory has been relocated below the processor, which puts the core complex die, CCD, closer to the cooling solution to help keep the Zen 5 cores cooler, delivering high clock rates and providing up to an average 8% gaming performance improvement compared to our last-gen generation. It does actually say generation. Back to the quote. And up to an average 20% faster than the competition. This revolutionary change in placement allows for extreme overclocking of the processor. It's the first X3D processor to be fully unlocked, empowering enthusiasts and gamers to push its performance to new limits. End quote. Now, this still has a 120 watt TDP, but depending on whether or not that's configurable with your motherboard, it sounds like this will have a lot more headroom than previous X3D parts. This is, again, an 8-core, 16-thread processor. Base frequency is 4.7 gigahertz, boost up to 5.2. As to the price, $479 US for this launch. So if you're like me and you've been waiting for that 7800X3D to be widely available for that $330-ish price range again, well, no, it's not going to happen, at least not with the 9800X3D. If you want what is widely considered to be the best gaming processor, whatever the current X3D part is, you're going to have to pay for it. So will you be pre-ordering a 9800X3D for $479 USD? Or maybe will a microcode corrected Core i9 on a fire sale somewhere be a better option for you? Let us know in the comments. And now, back to the podcast. From videocards.com, one thing that we do know is that if you look at the reviews out there, as videocards.com did, the overall picture of Core Ultra 200K processors is a 6% regression in gaming and a 5% application performance improvement versus 14th gen. So it's almost a wash. You get a little bit better overall multi-threaded performance, which is interesting considering, these don't have hyper-threading anymore. But gaming is down.
That's part of the reason why, is because, they're not dealing with hyper-threading. They're just raw power. And for you, it'd actually work good. For rendering this podcast into something usable, this seems to be a chip for people that work. If you game, oh my God, it's
but if you game,
the absolute worst.
No.
Don't.
What I want to know
Just
is, because if you look at this performance summary of 20 reviews, and you have to look at the actual freshness of the reviews. I think Steve might be the only one. I don't know who else is doing dates. Doesn't he put dates on the results chart now, as you can see, like when it was tested? No. Anyway,
I believe he does.
a lot of these numbers are going to be from previous, like pre-microcode 0x12b results that are already in the books, already in the huge Excel file. How many outlets actually completely wiped everything away and said, okay, there's new microcode that changed aspects of the processor. We're going to retest everything on Intel 14th gen. So if they didn't do
That's
that,
a reasonable point.
is there really the same performance regression,
Or is it?
or are they at parity because the
Equal or
14th gen is
delta
just
bigger?
slower now? I mean, it is.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, any results that you see at PCPer going forward, I have thrown out all 12th, 13th, 14th gen numbers. There will be no 4,096 watt power limits with insane voltage results anymore, ever again. And it is more noticeably lower, as my little video showed. It's just, I just did some multi-threaded benchmarks like Blender and Cinebench.
I can send you some benchmark results from my 13900KS if you
That
need
one is
those.
not valid because that one is delidded and underwater and custom voltage and overclock to heck. And so, but yes, I'm glad that's working for you. That, hey, you know what? AnonTech is gone. Somebody has to be the one doing the boring bone stock 5,600 megatransfers per second memory. Although I'm not going to go that far.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know. I considered doing it though. Briefly, the CyberPower Project Zero Infinity is another aquarium case
With a separate front and side glass panel. It doesn't come off all at once, but it's pre-built, which is
this is a
part of the reason.
pre-built.
Yes.
Oh, I see.
Part of the reason it
CyberPowerPC.
looks so fancy.
How much is this CyberPower PC Project Zero Infinity?
Well, if you wanted to ask,
and who made this case? They use off-the-shelf stuff at CyberPowerPC.
It's actually one that you've seen before. It was.
I'm actually looking at one across my office right now.
You have one, don't you?
It's a Corsair 3500X.
This is a Corsair?
Yeah, it is.
It looks just like it. Yeah.
I didn't remember the
it's the
floor
TG
being
case.
like this. The floor didn't have this huge thing because the power supply was behind the motherboard tray.
Yeah, no, the 3500X that I've got that's it.
Okay, I had the 6500X.
You did have
Yeah,
the
not quite the
6500.
same.
Yeah.
No, I see the Corsair fans now. Of course. So, yes, it's a Corsair 3500X. We will have coverage of that case at some point.
But
no,
where
we
are the
can't. It will be
wires?
gorgeous.
Where are the wires?
Is it because this is a backside connector build?
It has a backside to it, yes. A deep backside.
Somebody has to do it. You know, if not consumers, then maybe pre-builts will embrace this. So I guess the advantage of this is that you don't see the ATX 24 pin, which could have been hidden behind a little shroud or something anyway.
You don't even see the dual
No.
eights. You don't see the eights coming over the top.
But look, the
Where's the
graphics
power?
card. The graphics
Yes,
card still
where?
has that messy cable there.
And
And what about this cable? What about this?
To the,
this,
to the
PWM?
pump. To the pump.
To the pump. And
To
what
the
about
pump.
these hoses?
Pump.
Those hoses.
What
look
about
well,
hoses?
Wireless water cooling never works well.
Now that Intel has joined AMD in offering lower power draw from their desktop enthusiast parts, you just go back to air cooling. You don't even need the added complexity of an all-in-one liquid cooler anymore. And get rid of those unsightly hoses. I mean, my goodness, look, it is blocking part of that beautiful RGB fan. I can't even see the Corsair logo. If the promise of backside connectors is to make a perfect, clean build, why am I looking at a 12-volt high-power cable and fan connectors and unsightly hoses? That's what I want to know.
That's because they have to get a reading off of that pump. That's all.
Somebody said it in the chat. backside water cooling. Oh, wait, it was you, Brett. Oh, okay.
I was repeating something that David and Elle said.
Yeah.
Okay. So, yeah. If you're,
is actually a company and a modder in Taiwan, I think, or maybe Hong Kong, came up with a CPU block that it attaches on the back plate and it feeds coolant through the backside. And Bits Power has actually licensed this from them, so you can actually have a water cooled CPU with no tubes in front.
You've just got what looks like a spider-like cold plate sitting on the CPU?
Oh, no, it's a pretty attractive cold plate, and that you can I actually think that there are even models of it now that have like LCDs on it and stuff. But yeah.
Do they use the through holes for the attachment?
Yeah, the mounting holes.
points?
They must.
Mounting holes?
Yes. It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool.
Interesting.
I hope so. It is a CPU after all.
I hesitate to give away this information for free on a live stream on YouTube right now, but
you've got one.
I just had an incredible product idea that could revolutionize the PC gaming industry.
Okay. Oh, I can't wait.
So,
all right.
The number one way
here it is
to get rid of cable mess. This is just a random board I have laying around. This is an MSI B650 board, I think. So, as you can see, not a backside connector board. There's an ATX, connector here. You've got your EPS connectors. It's unsightly. There's just so many connectors, so many cables that are coming off of this thing. Plus, you can see the cooler. You could see the memory, see the graphics card.
I know where you're going with it.
Turn it around. This is what you see. Yeah. With my case design, there's these huge standoffs. And you mount the motherboard upside down. This is all you see. And you can put like lighting, decorations, stickers. Just put in fact, I'll sell a 9.6 by 12 inch.
You can put a mini waifu pillow on the back of that. LED lit.
Or just put a screen. It's the backside screen. And then you just put whatever you want on it, like diagnostics, second monitor, whatever.
Oh,
and that's all you see through your case window.
I hate to break it to you, Sebastian, but that's already been done. This custom modder in Japan called Bro Cooling posted a video a couple of weeks ago of this one of the Thermaltake Tower, I think 500 cases, where they had modded and put the motherboard in backwards. All the cooling was on the backside. Yeah. And in the front, they did this Gundam thing with this huge Gundam figure in the display area.
I just found it.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's not a backside connector motherboard, but you said you're going to mount it backwards. This is the one where they mount it.
It mounts. He's mounted it in the back of the case. Okay. And so the back of the motherboard is facing the front, but you can't see it because of radiators, fans, and of course the gigantic Gundam figure that probably cost about $500 American dollars. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, there's enough going on inside that case. I don't think it would have taken away from the experience to see some nice cable management too. It's just me. Yeah. Maybe I'm weird. I like cables. I like them neatly arranged. It is time for Insecurity Corner.
Welcome to Insecurity Corner, your weekly reason to drink.
First up, nice cookie encryption scheme, Google. Shame if something happened to it.
Guess what? Something did. Google had this huge thing there. We're going to encrypt your cookies so that nasty people can't steal them. And a bunch of us said, well, what if we just didn't have cookies that collected stuff we didn't want being shared? And we were collectively laughed at because, hey, we've got to keep the advertising companies happy and, getting income from companies that give them money to have people not click on their ads. Anyways, so malware people had obviously figured out how to unencrypt this without hitting Google servers, just by being able to predict the encryption scheme. And sure enough, a security researcher just recently released a tool to show you exactly how it can be done. essentially, at the push of a button. Ridiculously easy to do. So app-bound encryption, you do need to have administrative access to the machine you're trying to get the cookies from. Unfortunately, there's only several billion pieces of malware out there that will give you privileged escalation to be able to do such, at which point you can grab all of them. The keys are stored in a local state file on the machine, of course, and unencrypt them to your pleasure, grabbing whatever it is that you feel. Thankfully, this probably won't be good for stealing session cookies, because in theory, they'll be, if the guy's already got admin access to your machine, he'll grab them a different way and not even really have to unencrypt them. He'll just use them and respawn them, essentially. But yeah, so this whole Google encryption thing for your cookies, it lasted minutes. And now we know exactly why. But don't worry, cookies are apparently good for you.
By the way, the Russian court has fined Google some insane denomination.
It's like decillion.
Is it decillion?
I was going to go with decillion.
But that's decimal.
Desa would be... What is Desa?
Well, it's the numbering scheme we use, the decimal scheme.
So
I'm pretty sure it's a decillion.
Deca. Is it decadillion?
Yes. It's a 2 with a really large number of zeros.
Centa is 100th and Desa is 10th. So Deca is 10.
Like a dodecahedron.
Right,
not a
10-sided,
dodecahedron.
right?
Yeah.
Well, you know what? Russia's, treating this very seriously. Google, not so much. But this is all stemming from the fact that in 2022, Russia decided that they were going to be worthy of punishment by the rest of the world when they invaded Ukraine. So Google,
to the ninth wonder of the world.
Yeah, Google doing their part removed a lot of Russian state media, a lot of Russian TV channels, a lot of Russian-based channels from YouTube, and they didn't like that very much. So they eventually got around to finding them. Google's like a whole lot of meh about it right now.
Well, they've got a reason for that. It was the Register who tried to figure it out, and the GDP estimated of the globe is around 100 trillion. So this fine is exponentially larger than the total global GDP.
True.
Obviously,
It's not like this is possible.
Yes, this is totally and absolutely reasonable.
They would have to find more money than the world has ever had.
This just sounds like Dr. Evil in Austin Powers, too. He doesn't understand the value of currency in the present day. So first he asks for too little, and then he asks for more money than even exists. And
yes.
It's kind of...
That's
it is
exactly what happened.
Yeah, it's akin to that, yeah.
Okay, well, enough about that. This is something that sounds pretty serious. New fake call Android malware redirects your bank phone calls to scammers invisibly. You don't have to click on a link in an email. You don't have to be lured into calling some number from a spam text that you got. Call us right away about your account. Now you can call your own bank and have it go to scammer. How is this possible? Because you downloaded some weird app that you thought would give you free movies or something on your Android phone?
You are 100% correct.
Oh, okay.
Well, 99%. You might have downloaded something totally legitimate from the Google store that had been hacked due to other reasons.
That's also possible.
Also a possibility. But the lovely thing about this is that's all it does. It just sits there quietly, and it waits for you to phone.
It just sits there quietly, monitoring everything you do and waiting for you to call your bank,
yes.
and then redirecting the phone call to them. That's all.
Yes.
That's all.
And completely and totally, essentially it takes over the phone app on Android. And it perfectly mimics it. So all of your contacts are going to show up just like they always did. You add a new one, you edit one. Nothing tells you that anything has changed. Except,
they rewrote phone?
5 minutes except about 5 minutes after you finish your call with the bank and you realize that you've been completely and utterly cleaned out. It's been around for a while. This is not a new one. It just keeps evolving and getting worse, and it looks like they're branching out. The researchers that tracked this one down were noticing that it picked up some new things, like being able to take your phone out of sleep, mimicking gestures without, you interacting with a phone whatsoever, and a couple of other horrific things that Bleeping Computer lists out for you if you're not already in a horrible mood.
Nice. Speaking of horrible mood and Bleeping Computer, here's another story from that source. Hackers steal 15,000 cloud credentials from exposed Git config files. This is every week. There's something big. Probably a lot more that we don't know about.
So this was a couple of really kind of off-the-shelf tools, mass scan and HTTPX. And they wrote some script kiddie stuff around this that basically looked for some Laravel env git config environment files. Let's face it, unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on your point of view, a lot of the web still runs on PHP. So there. And they found a number of them, but they didn't stop there. So not only did they find the git config files and they have pulled information out of there that those config files themselves held to say, ooh, now we've got some, credentials to, buckets or other cloud service providers. No, what they did is they extracted those files, fed those to yet a secondary subsystem that says, well, where do these go? Oh, to other Git repos or to other cloud environments. Let's log into those and then pull all of those files and then further dig through those for additional credentials. And that's where their savings really comes in. They really multiplied their effectiveness.
What is Git really good at, and how can we leverage it?
Yeah, kind of. So this is really unfortunate. Stop sharing, making sure that you don't check in Git repos. Please filter that out, and don't make your /git config files, especially if you're running Laravel, apparently, web accessible. Write some rules in your HTTP conf or whatever mechanism you're using to serve up your directories. Just filter out Git, please.
And as been mentioned on previous ones, if your Git project is about to expire and they say, hey, redo your credentials or it goes public again, just for the love of Pete, either completely delete it, load it up with something horrible, or re-up them, even if you're not going to maintain it.
That's the name poaching one, so that
which goes so well with this.
Yeah, it really does.
Yeah.
Finally, in Insecurity Corner, this story via Tom's Hardware. NVIDIA GPU driver addresses 8 major high-severity vulnerabilities. If you're an NVIDIA GPU owner, you need to update ASAP. This was from 2 days ago. Of course, there's always...
So it's too late.
There's always new graphics.
It's already too late. Not the only, but one of the interesting things about this is it wasn't just Windows. It was also on Linux. So Linux is not immune if you're running an NVIDIA GPU. Definitely update your drivers there. And sometimes if you're running an NVIDIA GPU on Linux, you've had to kind of maybe jump through some hoops in order to successfully run that NVIDIA GPU. It depends on your version of Linux, I should say. Yeah, you may have to go in and lay some hands on your Linux machines with NVIDIA GPUs and fix them.
How far back did they go? Is this one of those high severity things where they actually went back and created patched versions of drivers for older and previously unsupported graphics cards again? Or is it just
that I don't know. I know they had to patch.
6800 is probably still in trouble, but
6800.
GS.
That is pretty old.
Yeah, like that one's probably still going to be vulnerable, but I'd update your 1080.
So this looks like the ability to, as far as I could read, this looked like local execution problems where they could feed a customized image render to the GPU and cause it to fall into a space where they could remotely or they could execute code on your box. I didn't dig into it far enough to know whether this was remotely executable. I suppose it would be if they forced you to view something. So, yeah, this is potentially serious enough. These are bad. Please update your NVIDIA drivers, even on Linux.
Especially you 1650 users that have absolutely no clue what graphics card is in that pre-built that you bought.
Yeah, you might want to do that.
Crap.
Hey, it has high-end discrete graphics, okay?
Yes.
That's 1650 GTX.
I have a
tasty
high end when
waves.
I'm lying on my stomach, too.
Tasty waves, dude. Tasty waves.
All right, well, let's move to gaming quick hits right now. And to something that looks an awful lot like Lords of the Realm. Manor Lords meets Crusader Kings in Liegecraft. Look at this. Construct buildings in your cities, improve lands around them, extract valuable resources. That sounds like Lords of the Realm 2 to me.
Doesn't sound like Heroes of Might and Magic 3?
No,
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
I never played the Heroes series. Should I?
Oh, those were great. They were great.
Yep.
All right.
They got progressively less great, but 3 was one of the better ones.
3 was the pinnacle. 3 was the pinnacle.
And
so just go to 3.
You can honestly, and you can play that on one of your retro systems, if I recall correctly.
Oh, just a modern system.
You can play it on a modern system for sure.
Okay.
But no, so Crusader Kings is sort of your average medieval city builder where everything just sort of progresses. You can speed up time or pause time as you need to, but you're chopping wood and making everything to build, your manor. Crusader Kings, on the other hand, is Paradox's insane, incestuous, medieval take over the world, but as opposed to spending a lot of the time like they do on Europa doing the armies and just sheer conquering, a lot of it is spent on the actual people running the realm and the horrible, awful lives that they lead. This mixes the two of them, where you've got the turn-based sort of expansion, where at the same time you've got to deal with the infighting of all your vassals and, to be perfectly honest, your rulers' predilections. You might end up having a leader that really, really likes babies and cannibalism. Possibly together. This can be difficult to deal with. So it's sort of a mix of the two of them and goes through several ages based on the research tree that you can see there. So it's interesting. The people behind it are impressive. You've got everything from guys that worked on Witcher to Paradox people who did a lot of the Europa and the other games. But you've also got guys from 11-bit studios that did Frostpunk. So it's going to be an interesting mix if it works out well. It's just a wish list thing right now. They're not talking about an alpha until sometime next year. But if you're into either Crusader Kings or any of the other games we mentioned, it looks interesting if they pull it off well. And it sounds like there's a lot of experience behind it that will actually be able to pull it off.
But do the Paradox people put their hands in the air?
Like they just don't care?
Like they just don't care? Oh.
Mm-hmm. Don't care.
All right. Next, it wouldn't be Gaming Quick Hits without a humble bundle, would it? And here's one for Atari. The Atari Recharged Retro Revival Game Bundle. Atari Classics for a new generation.
I was surprised by, the large bundle of Atari games that you could get for your PC. They even have the Asteroids Recharged, which comes with color asteroids and more interesting looking shields. You know what? If you like these sort of games and hit play on that one. That one's fun.
Oh, the Atari Human Centipede. I remember that one.
That is not what that says. Anyway, so colored asteroids.
Wow, that looks much fancier.
Do you remember the original stand-up arcade game had colored sheets in front of the glass in order to give it sort of a different color in areas?
Yeah. What was it, the Vectrex that made use of overlays?
It might have been.
Yeah.
Multiplayer.
So they've actually done Asteroids a little bit of a minor upgrade on some of these things. So look into this if you want to see some old Atari games with maybe a PC twist, slight PC upgrade twist to them.
But where's my Sinistar?
Oh, I don't think it's on there. Sorry.
Well, one of these games is a 50 game collection. The Atari
Yeah, so
50th
maybe
anniversary.
Oh, I didn't delve into that. So it might be
Is it 50
Gravatar's in
games or
here.
is 50 years? How many games are on here?
more than 2.
Tempest. Oh wow.
A few. I don't know why we didn't talk about M4 Max, Brett, because this next story, it's about Cyberpunk 2077 finally coming to Mac. You know, Apple, they have this incredible processor, unified memory architecture, high bandwidth memory for your graphics, for your system. It seems like the perfect solution for gaming, really. In a
Reasonably
small,
powered GPUs,
sleek,
you know,
expensive package. Please tell us more.
Yeah. You know what? Just in time for the M4 Mini and 8, the much sought after, basically slightly enhanced Apple TV style format in a 5x5 inch physical format, we have the Cyberpunk 2077 Ultimate Edition being ported to Mac after, 4.5 years after it was released? So just,
Well, 2.5
timing
years
is right.
after it was fixed.
So are you saying that if I go to like, what are the sites? Macworld, 9to5Mac, they're going to start showing more than just Shadow of the Tomb Raider benchmarks. Now they'll actually be
they sure are.
Cyberpunk
They sure are.
2077. Finally.
Early
Okay.
2025. Early 2025, we'll be able to begin to finally
Incredible.
experience Cyberpunk 2077, the Ultimate Edition, especially for those who are worthy enough to purchase the M4.
So
Either
it's
in
the
Mac
way
Mini
it was
form
meant to be played.
or MacBook Pro.
You know, we don't have to go into this whole digression
only
about
hope-
the M4 here because we're doing quick hits. But
only hope that my M3 Max can live
you know,
up. and
if
play
only I could see
2077.
Apple comparing the M4 to the M3 or even the M2, because the literature that I saw was
There
comparing it to
is
the
no
M1.
M2.
There are
no
places out
M2.
there that there are places out there that actually do compare.
Like your house.
And it is no.
I don't know. I'm just saying. You said there are places. You must have direct knowledge of this.
There are places. I went.
There are
looked them up.
individuals who buy everything that's shiny and made by Apple, and they know.
Some do. Some.
Okay.
And yeah, it's an incremental upgrade for the most part.
Okay.
You're not wrong. It's
Like
incremental.
M3 over M2 was. All right. I think it's time for picks of the week. Josh, it's tradition. Get us started, please.
Gotta change my color and unmute because nobody really wants to see my white face or hear my voice.
You look a bit
So what
flushed.
am I doing here? I don't
Flushed.
know. It's the orange screen, not flushed. But yeah, we're finally starting to see some interesting AMD motherboard deals coming out. This one is, I think, reasonably priced for an 870, and it comes with a 1 terabyte SSD. Sadly, the Team Group 1 terabyte SSD is PCI 3.0, but you know what? You can find something to use with it. 289 is nice for Wi-Fi 7 and USB 4.0, and it still supports PCI 5.0. It's got 4 M.2 slots in there. It's a 16 plus 2 plus 2 power phase, so it can do perfectly fine at whatever processor you decide to throw at it. So usually at this spot was like an MSI Tomahawk in this price range. Now we've got, something a little bit nicer, a few more things, bells and whistles to it. Oh, well,
And
look at that.
Falcon Punch.
Yeah, but that's an 870E. That's probably,
Yeah.
about $200 more expensive?
Oh, sorry. I thought I had. I'm like, hey, I have that board, but no. That's
almost.
the E.
Almost.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is the
Anyway.
non-E.
It's the Aorus Elite, so it's a higher end of the X870, not the 870E. So,
Okay.
but still,
It's not that much more.
It's got 5.0 on the GPU and 1 M.2.
Yeah, it's actually
YouTube
only
chat
$30 more.
says $30.
Oh,
Yeah.
It's right there
Yeah.
on the
You
screen.
got to go with the E.
and you get
for
3
30
memory with that.
Yeah. You're going to need some DDR5. I don't know what Corsair memory it is. Hopefully it's
But
it's
right there,
free.
124.
It's free.
Well,
Did
yeah,
you
it's a free
scroll up a little bit?
640?
Scroll up a bit.
It's
Do
6,400.
you see the ad-free gift to card?
Oh, I see.
$130 worth of memory.
Yep.
Ooh, I bet if you ran that at
That's
3,000, you could lower that
That's,
latency and voltage.
Yeah.
That's a fantastic deal.
Yeah, 1.4 volts
That's
is
your
not.
pick right
Buy
there.
this now. Buy this board
Seriously.
now. It's $100 worth of memory for free.
But
Even if it doesn't work
if
for
the
that
memory
board.
is 1.4 volts, do you want that?
Yes, because I do this all the time. I get the 6400 1.4, and I run it at 6,000 and 1.35 volts.
Yeah.
Everything else the same. It's fine.
There you go. Okay.
It's undervolting. All the kids are doing it now.
That's true.
100% stability, no concerns. Although, actually, I've been running at 1.4 volts on AMD again. Because that's the kit they sent the last time. I said, okay, fine. If I'm going to start retesting all these processors again, I'll just do what they want. I'll just run 1.4 volts because the last 2 times AMD sent me a memory, it was 1.4 volts. Even after all the excitement surrounding high voltage on AM4. Maybe AM5, they figured it out. It's not a big issue anymore. Don't know.
We
All
can
right.
only hope.
Yes. Jeremy, your pick this week.
What? Someone's got their finger in the pie. If you are brave enough to update your Raspberry Pi, you're going to get Wayland. They are changing the entire desktop rendering over to Wayland. It's interesting. So upgrade if you're willing to move to Wayland. I did it. Wasn't a problem on mine. Essentially, the change was hardly noticeable, which was, I think, what they were hoping for. But yeah, it's been a while. We've been waiting for this, and it has finally happened. So there you go. Goodbye, X-Window. Not X-Wing.
Right. Brett, your pick of the week.
All right, you've taken Josh's advice and you've said, all right, I need this AM5 board, but you turn and look at Sebastian and go, you know what? For $30 more, I can have that board, but you had $500 set aside for your GPU. What are you going to do? I know what you're going to do. You're going to save $30 and you're going to go get yourself a 7800 XT for $479.
What, at
I'm sorry,
Walmart?
$469.
You're going to go down to your local Walmart and get yourself.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
7800 XT.
You know what? Basically, what I'm saying here is I'm not proud. I'm going to get this GPU where I can for the best price possible.
It says sold and shipped by Newegg Incorporated.
Doesn't matter.
we could just be looking at this on Newegg. Okay, I like the Walmart. Well, mixing it up.
Hey, nobody's buying the 7800 XT, so why do you worry about it?
According to Mind Factory in Germany,
Josh,
it's the second best-selling GPU behind the 40.
If we could just rewind the show for 90 minutes here, let's just zip this back and can we replay the section where you said the 7800 XT is the best-selling GPU ever?
Yes.
I actually trolled Josh.
And Sebastian went on some sort of a German rant.
The last time Josh said that the 7800 XT was the best-selling GPU, I trolled him because that week's podcast thumbnail was a picture of the same source, but the more current results showing that had slipped to number 2 behind the 4070 Ti.
Right. Putting paid to the fact that Sebastian actually started the show saying, we just riffed this whole thing. I had no idea any of this was going to happen.
It's called performance art. Kent, I think you have kind of a novel pick here, don't you?
I do. This is actually one of my favorite books of all time.
Oh, no, you're going to bring up the Lost Universe again, aren't you?
No, I am not.
Damn you.
No, this is one of the last books by a legendary science fiction and fantasy author named Roger Zelazny. The book is called A Night in the Lonesome October.
I love
It has been out of print for some time.
Yes, it has.
But they recently released an audiobook version of it. You can get it on Kindle, and a new paperback version will be releasing next year in February. But regardless, this is one of the 2 books that I try to read once a year. It is a first-person narration told from the perspective of Jack the Ripper's dog. and it's a fantastic story, especially if you're into a lot of old movies, especially like old horror movies, Hammer horror, the old classic Universal horror. There's also a little Cthulhu mythos thrown in there. It's just a wonderful genre smashing novel. It's very fun. Like I said, I read it once a year, usually in October. I'm reading it again right now. And it's, like I say, one of my favorite books ever. And I like to share it with people because it's not very well known.
I always really liked Nine Princes of Amber. That entire series was great.
Me too.
From Roger.
Oh, yeah.
Josh, let's walk the pattern after the show.
You wouldn't want to know where I would end up. Staggering.
I have a pick this week. It's a product I recently picked up. It was time to do an oil change in the driveway. And I've had incidents in the past where I slopped the oil or I kind of
Incidents and accidents? Hints and allegations?
Just describe the incident in great detail.
Well, I just slopping oil. Like you try to use the funnel and sometimes it tips over or I overfill the funnel because I wasn't paying attention to what I was doing. Something like that. And it's inaccurate to try to figure out, like I'm looking at the lines on the bottle, like, well, it's this many quarts and then like this like 0.3.
Some, and then some.
But forget all of that. Forget slopping oil around. Forget not precisely refilling your engine. Get the Flow Tool Measure funnel like I did. I went down to my local auto parts store. It's actually an O'Reilly, not AutoZone, but they're $6.99. They hold 1 quart or 1 liter. And here's what's special about this.
Horribly rude.
Okay. You don't have to use this tube. By the way, I don't. I just hold the funnel end over the oil. But here's what's special about this. This blue thing right here, that's twist and lock.
So
what you do is, you put it into the off position. Mm-hmm. You then measure the exact amount of oil that you want. On one side, it shows up to 1 liter. On the other side, it shows up to 1 quart. And then when you're done measuring the exact amount, you hold this over what is that opening called? Like the oil...
The exhaust port?
No.
No.
That's not where you're putting it in, right?
Oil fill. Yes.
Let's call it the oil fill, shall we?
Okay, the oil orifice, and then you just twist this thing to start the flow. And you can direct the flow with this
it's a pleasure
hose.
to use, isn't it?
You can
the oil
make it
must
flow fast or slow, depending on how far you open the valve. And there's even a handy, I don't know if you can see it here, there's a little mesh filter in there. There's a little strainer. So say you've opened up your oil and you start dumping it in, and then a little bit of that foil from the seal on the top of the jug comes out. And you're like, no, it's in my engine now.
Or the plastic ring from the bottleneck.
Yeah.
Yes.
It hits that mesh. It hits that mesh filter. It's not going in your engine. So this was literally me in my driveway the other day. Although the one that I bought is not opaque. It's actually perfectly clear. And it looks like this instead. So go down to AutoZone or O'Reilly Auto Parts or wherever. Get yourself the Flow Tool Measure funnel. And enjoy the controlled liquid measurement that you've never dreamed of. That you've always dreamed of.
Folks.
I've had one of those for over 20 years.
It's also useful on very long road trips.
Okay.
Yeah, I've had one of those for over 20 years. They're very handy.
I didn't know it existed. I was looking for a measurement jug. I was like, you know what? I'm sick of this imprecise measurement and like checking the dipstick and like, am I waiting long enough to check the dipstick? Am I not? And then there's like, did you fill the oil filter before you put it back in, or did you not fill the oil filter? Because there's different schools of thought on that. That's going to do it for the PC Perspective podcast on Halloween Eve, on All Hallows Eve.
Eve.
We are look. Some of us got into the spirit. Brett again with his creepy thing that's behind him, whatever that is.
It's Fred. His name is Fred.
That's what you call your
Hi, Fred.
server rack, or is that something? That's something else.
No,
Okay.
this is Fred. It's Fred.
That's it. Good night.
Have a good swing.
I don't.